All right, welcome to the next episode of Discipline, Desire, Dedication. My name is Dakota Lang, along co-host Garrett Cotton. Got one of the owners of Performance Windows here with us, Mr. Kyle Deaver. What's up, bro?
Hey, good to be here. This is my
Third
time on.
Third time on.
I remember the last time was just me and you, and then the first time was me and Levi, right?
Yep. You and Levi, then you came on. It's going to be a
Has anybody else been a three-timer, or am I the first?
Nope.
Hey,
You're the
hey,
first. Yeah, first.
You went from being the only one not on the pod to 3 in a row.
A regular.
Literally. How you been, bro?
Good.
What's life treating you like?
I'm a little bummed out. You know, honestly, my favorite sweater is that Discipline, Desire, Dedication one that I got, and now we're in summer months, so I can't. So I need some new swag for the.
We'll get some
for the
summer
We
gear
need to
coming.
get you some tank tops.
Yeah.
We got some tank tops.
You guys are pretty good about the gear. Like, I've got a couple of podcasts, and I've never. Put it straight so everybody knows the realities of a business like this, because a business like this sucks until it doesn't.
That's right.
Right? What does merch look like for you? I mean, it's a lot of giveaway. Did we get any merch sales? I mean,
No
Nope.
merch sales.
how do people buy this merch then? Where can they go?
Shopify.
We
Shop.
built out a Shopify. You can go online, and it's got all the links for everything on our Instagram pages and stuff like that. It's a little pricey, but it's good. It's good
Yeah,
quality.
but I'm telling you, that's by far I've got I had like a 3 sweater rotation. I just moved to it's by far the best sweater I've got.
It's
So
good quality.
people
quality.
that's what you guys need to start doing on here more. I know you're doing all the other stuff, but you got to start pushing the merch. It's
Oh,
good
yeah.
merch.
We'll get there. Our plan is we even talked about this the other day. We want to give another big push of like just giving it out.
Yeah.
And then we'll start coming because there's going to be a point where people are going to want to buy it because
Yeah.
everybody's wearing it, you know? So
Yeah.
Well, right
we'll
now,
get there.
if you walk in Jack Walton's house, he's probably got 150 T-shirts hanging up.
Yeah.
A whole wardrobe.
He's
So,
ready though. If y'all ready to buy,
Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
merch. Go to the Shopify.
Heck
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, cool deal. Well, I know we were talking about before, kind of talking about just being respected and rather than being liked, and just in the Performance Windows way, especially, but just in life in general. That's a topic that you've been talking about with the market owners and down the chains through closers and stuff like that. What would be? How would you lead off that conversation?
Well, actually, so the way that all happened, it was actually an enlightening. What I love about Performance Windows is obviously I've been here since day one because I founded it, right?
yeah.
And so I've seen a lot of things that are just, if it's a new problem to a new market owner, it's probably a very old problem for me, right? Mm-hmm. So what's exciting to me always is every once in a while I'll step into a new problem. Because Performance Windows is this growing, progressing thing, there's always new things even for me to learn and for the top level to learn. And so I was actually having a discussion with one of the market owners, and I had it backwards, right? I thought to myself, it didn't even register in my brain, but whenever I was a market owner, all my people liked me, right? And I'll get to that part later. But so I just went to this market owner. I was like, hey, make sure they like you, dude. Like you got to win hearts and minds. You got to, just taking them out to company dinner. That's not you taking them out. That's the company taking them out. So hang out with them. I would take my closers to lunch. I would this, right? And I left that conversation with that guy and talked to Levi, and he was like, no, you're wrong. It's not about being liked. It's about being respected, right? Mm-hmm. And, we kind of had that discussion, me and Levi. So I got off that, and then I called you. And that's what I also really appreciate is that there's a lot of dudes. You now, how long have you been a market owner?
No, like a year and 3 months.
So you've now been a market owner longer than I was a market owner,
Mm-hmm.
which means, I know things past what you know, but you fully know, and you've probably seen more scenarios as a market owner than I saw as a market owner. Mm-hmm. But I've just seen now 22 market owners' experiences so I can gain from them. But as I sat there and talked to you, what I like is that there's guys out there. I'll be honest, this is I don't think it's a shortcoming, but I really put weight on the words of people that I've seen have put forth the same work and effort that I have, right? It can never be denied that you've, paid the iron price. Garrett, you've paid the iron price. Mm-hmm. What really rubs me the wrong way is when a closer or somebody will come to me and say, hey, you need to do this. Mm-hmm. And then the next day they knock for 2.5 hours.
Yep.
It's like, hey, you shouldn't feel comfortable telling me what to do with my company if you're not willing to work what you're supposed to, right? You shouldn't feel comfortable with those things. But that's never been a worry of mine with you. And so as we kind of talked it out, I realized the stark contrast, everybody liked me because they respected me. But there's been a lot of people who have left Performance Windows been like, wow, Kyle's a dick, right? In fact, everybody who leaves Performance Windows, either fired or quitting, they should think Kyle's a dick, right? Because just like you guys, I am system manifest. Like, all I am is just what the system is. And if you don't vibe with the system, you don't vibe with me.
Yeah.
And so, it was a really enlightening conversation. What was it like for you having, your boss call and what's it like knowing that you're able to give opinions that shape how a company is, even before we talk about what that discussion looked like in Market Owners? That was a big combo for me. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, it was a great combo for me as well. It's an honor, but at the same time, it just goes back to the system. You know what I mean? To gain respect as a person, first of all, you got to respect the system. You know what I mean? The system's in place. We don't have to reinvent anything. If you just go out there, and I think it's comedy what you're saying, right? Somebody will be quick to give you their advice, but then they're going to go work 2 hours.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Give me a break.
But on that topic too, I feel like the people who are like that, it's, I always call it job mentality, but even market owners and stuff like that, I feel like from my experience as regional, I've seen that they're scared to pull the trigger on something without permission from leadership. And that's the difference in me and you, Dakota, is we want to own. We have that ownership mentality to where we're going to do because our lives depend on it, not because our boss is telling us to do so. So in failing markets that are turning around, they change from, calling me and asking for permission. A lot of times I'm like, dude, I would rather you ask for forgiveness. Make these decisions because you want to see the growth rather than, because I tell you to do that.
And I think we've had a lot of moments like that. I mean, for me, I'm so torn even on that statement, right? Because I think I do prefer it to be that way. But what then has to be okay with is when you misstep or do something that, like Dakota, me and you have had some battles on that. When you misstep, right, being very okay with the crack that comes, right? And I think I'm a lot more of as an owner, and you guys all have people who work for you too, right? Is I want there to be action and go, and you treat it like your own business. But with that comes the understanding that if I do misstep and I get cracked, I can't be mad about it. What do you think on that?
I agree, but it comes back to systems, though. I mean, if you understand and if you abide by the systems that have gotten us to where we're at, making a decision is going to be morally aligned with the systems. But then there's some people who want to change the foundation of the company because they think they can do it better. I've seen examples. Our Indeed recruiting is dialed. I've had market owners that want to do excess, and it's good because they're like, I'm a business owner and I'm hungry, but that's where it could fault them because they're doing too much in an unnecessary way, if that makes sense.
No, 100%, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it all does go back to the system, but also to bounce off what Cotton said, I do feel like calling and asking for permission is a good thing if you're trying to mastermind with one another.
Yeah.
But I also do think that a lot of market owners should take more action in their beliefs because they're in the day-to-day. You know what I mean? They understand what's going on in their office. Being a distance from your office, Cotton might have a different opinion than what I have because I'm in there every day. Same for you. A market owner has to take more action because if they constantly just waiting on Kyle to go, okay, you need to do this, right? Well, then at the same time, then they're just an employee.
I may as well do the thing.
You might as well do the job.
Yeah.
They're just an employee.
But they got to learn through failure too.
Yeah, exactly. But like you said, they have to be okay with, you've cracked me before, and you have to be okay with that. But all that is an opportunity for growth and to learn from your mistake.
Here's an issue that I struggle with, right? Is that there's certain market owners, right? Like you were one of these for me for a long time. There's a couple other market owners, but it's I gave this example the other day with I tried to talk about a Harry Potter book, which Garrett's never picked up a book in his life.
Only sales books.
Just kidding. But there's some guys where I'm like, oh man, I know I need to fix that issue, but what I get worried about sometimes is a dude how he'll respond to it because basically let's say when me and you have gotten into it in the past, my worry would be if he thinks to himself, I got to take a stand here and I got to tell Kyle to piss off, right? Well, then I must go over the top and smack you down hard or whatever it is, or remove a guy, whatever, because based on somebody's reaction, I'm forced to, by the system, to act the next way, right? And so it makes me nervous to go initiate the thing in the worry that I'll have to escalate it and make it worse, right? Do you guys ever have that where you're like, not that I don't want to go crack this guy, but I hope this guy just figures it out because I don't want to have to do the things so that he'll react and then I have to fire him. You understand the point I'm making?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm afraid to fire a guy. It's I don't want to fire that guy, so I don't want him to react the way I think he might
Why
react.
Why do you think that you have that thought process that some people might do that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a prideful thing. Like I'm worried about their pride, and for me, people have always asked me a question like, "Did you become an entrepreneur because you didn't want to work for somebody else?" And that has never been my motivation ever. For me, I was a great employee, entrepreneur, really. Basically, they had to be able to provide the opportunity for me to get as big as I wanted to get.
Yeah.
Right. And I just kept not finding that thing. Right. But, I always get worried like, and I think it's because I self-project. I think because I was willing to go fight and die for this thing, right, for Performance Windows, and I was willing to work my ass off. I just think everybody else is also doing that thing.
Yeah.
But they're not.
No.
They're
Far
not.
from it.
And so I just think to myself, like, where I was, I mean, just like you guys, I was broker than should even be humanly possible. I mean, I'd wake up and the government had cleared out my bank account like 5 times. And I remember one time I got the email that they'd cleared out my account, and I only had $2 in there. I was like, take it. I was pumped. I was pumped because I know it takes them months to be able to pull with paperwork, and they did all that work for $2. I was pumped for myself. But I just think where I'd come from and what I would have done to be able to achieve what we've got here. I just project it on others. So if they're not succeeding, I just think, well, it's not a work problem, but it is a work problem. Guys just won't do. And so also then that's insulting to me. Like, guy, you don't see what this thing is? Like, you won't do what I did? I don't know. It's tough for me to, I mean, how do you guys feel when you look around and see what people aren't willing to do what you did, but they're your equal? It's on paper, they're your equal. It's
Yeah, it aggravates
tough,
me.
dude.
Oh, yeah.
It drives me insane, just because it comes back to them valuing the opportunity the same way I do, and that's probably one of the hardest things that I've learned in the past year, especially growing up and being a successful market owner, is that you sit here and you try. I mean, we don't try, we do. We sell people on our beliefs, of growing this company, and some people just don't realize what they have in their hand until it's taken away from them.
Yeah, and a lot of times too is like for us, we sell on vision.
Yeah.
Like in any office I go to, like my first meeting is vision of where we want you in the next 6 months. That kind of stuff. So with that idea of vision, the people that come in and they don't work, that's where we hold that true accountability. Is because we're building that vision. If they don't fit the mold, then that's where I love my sayings of we apply so much pressure to where they have to figure it out or they figure a way out. Because getting somebody to work harder in Performance Windows, it's not a skill thing. It's a mindset thing where they want to be the best person in the room. And that's where I think that building that vision of like you are capable of becoming that,
That's what I tell everybody is like hard work in this job does not look like more doors. If you can't knock the doors, I'm not even going to talk to you. I mean, that's not something I can train on working for 5 hours a day. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, most people that come here work 10-hour days, I mean, to try and survive. Yeah. So I always tell people hard work in this job is not knocking more doors. Hard work in this job is being mentally tough enough to have a guy be a prick to you on the door and go to the next door super excited.
Yeah.
Being a hard worker in this job is knowing that 45 people are going to tell you to go kick rocks and 5 people are going to tell you, okay, I like the sound of that, and not letting the 45 affect the 5. But we see a lot of people who let the 45 turn into 50 because it affected it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough for me. And in the market owner talk, it kind of sparked a big discussion, which I really enjoyed, about respect over being liked and things. And to me, I think that you two guys and for myself, it's just kind of a natural thing that I just do the things that make me respected. Right? Mm-hmm. I just hold a hard line because that's just the way it is. And so I don't know, like if you could, I mean, you've talked to other marketers and things, but you've watched people. What do you think people do that makes them in this company lose respect? Go from respected to liked? Because I think it's a lot easier to be respected first and then liked than it is to be going from liked to respected, right? Because liked it's a cool guy, but we've all got a cool guy from our high school it's like I wouldn't take financial advice from him, but he's fun to hang out with on the weekends, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think people screw up, and where could you have screwed up that you didn't, that people go from respected to losing respect? What are they doing out there that's causing them that problem? Mm-hmm. And talk about that on the knocker level with their peers, the closer level, and the market owner level.
Yeah, I think a lot of time respect comes from production. Respect is gained from being the hardest worker and putting yourself through the most shit. And that's my opinion. Like as a knocker, I can look at anybody in the company and say, I worked harder and I did more as a knocker than anybody else. And that's where I gained respect. Like there's not a day where Dakota would go out there knocking while I'm not. You know, like there's not a single day where he sees what I'm going to do for my people, sacrificing my own for the growth of the company. You know, like I know it's been frowned upon sometimes, but like even helping somebody out on their first sale, you know, that's my belief that I'm so confident in success in this company that I'm willing to give away a whole sale. And, you know, that I feel like I gained a lot of respect from my people by sticking my neck out and doing that for my people. You know, that's just knocker level. Do you think anything aside from what you do for your people?
I think it's kind of like the conversation that we had. I feel like a lot of people as a market at a market owner position, the reason that people don't gain respect is because they feel like employees to that market owner.
Yeah.
Right? You work for him. And people don't respect a boss, they respect a leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody that wants their growth just as much as they do. Mm-hmm. And that comes from action. That don't come from words. You know, you can't be in the meeting going, "Oh man, y'all are gonna get there," and then whenever you leave the meeting, you're totally disengaged. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? No, you have to be there, hand and foot, right?
Yeah, like really being with that person and guiding them to success.
Guiding them to
rather
success.
Than just telling them, "Here's the path."
And guiding them to success is not being their best friend. Mm-hmm. You know, Chance Lott, one of my best friends, he was my roommate with me when I ain't had nothing. We eat canned beef stew together from Dollar General. You know what I mean? Didn't have nothing.
Had to shower together.
Yeah, they did that because they wanted to.
But at the same time, like, you know, what we've been through, he's one of my best friends. He knows I love him with everything in me. But when we get the performance window shirt on in the office, it's strictly business.
Yeah.
You know, I've drawn the line with that, and he knows that, which is why he has done and achieved what he has. Mm-hmm. But I think it's crazy what you're talking about. Like, it's easier to be respected than be liked, rather than being liked then being respected, right?
Yeah.
You have to be respected. You have to set the standard immediately, and it starts with the top of the leadership. I mean, you and Levi, I have the utmost respect for both of you, and it's because y'all are both involved in everything. Y'all are involved in our success. You know what I mean? You crack me. You know what I mean? You call me and say, "Hey, dude, I don't agree with this." You know what I mean? And it's something that I had to take, but at the same time, that just showed me that you cared about my success.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't going, "Oh, well, you're doing this, you know, but you can't do that." No, it was, you know, tough love, you know, but at the same time, it's only to get you to where you want to go. And I feel like even as a closer position, right, a closer position, I tell my closers all the time, like, it is your job to hold these knockers accountable, especially in an office the size of mine. Mm-hmm. I can't be over here managing 15, 20 knockers. Yeah. You have to go out there and you crack them. I tell my closers, you pull up in Hood and see if he's sitting in his car. You tell him, "Hey, you ain't going to do nothing in there, I promise you." Mm-hmm. You know, and he might tell you to screw off. He might. I make jokes about it all the time. You know, I know some of y'all, I drop a message in chat like, "Fuck Dakota." You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, I love it. You know, I've said the same thing about Cotton. Fuck Cotton. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, it's just because it's because we know what it takes to get to where you want to go, and it's not always going to be an easy route. I'm not here to be your friend. You know.
So we've all watched. I love that. We've all watched closers lose the respect of the knockers.
Yes.
How does it happen? How do they let it not happen? And if they have lost it, how do they regain that respect?
I see people I mean, the easiest term is they get comfortable. They get to this next role, and it's a entitlement that they have. They're entitled that I'm the closer in the room. I've done what you didn't do, and then it's just about them. That we see them stop hitting their 5 hours. They're waiting for appointment flow. They wait for the money to come. Versus the difference is the top 1% of the company. Those are the guys who you can't get them off the doors. Even whenever they're free time, they're eager to get back out there because they understand that that's their opportunity to change their lives. So the easiest thing is they get comfortable and they expect knockers to do for them. Where, back to what I was saying earlier, it's about what you do for your people. As a closer, you need to be you still take these knockers as if they're kids, like they're your children. I hate for my child to fail in this industry. So what are you going to do to make sure that person is improving every single day?
Yeah. My personal opinion is, I think, especially from a knocker to a closer, is that if a closer is stagnant for too long, it's because they don't believe that they can compete with the top knockers in the office. They don't believe that they can go out there and set 4 to 5 appointments. You know what I mean?
They're getting out.
They're scared to go get on the doors because of the failure they might encounter.
They're already anticipating it. Yeah.
They're already anticipating it, right? And it's because they're not committed enough. And I tell my guys that all the time. Like, the second that you have, the doubt in your head that you can't go out there and set appointments, well, then these other knockers, they see that, dude. They see that you're scared of the doors. And
so self-doubt would probably be a huge part.
Self-doubt.
So self-doubt, but why do you think they start doubting themselves? They do less.
Lack of activity.
Yeah, they do less. Yeah.
Lack of activity. They don't take massive action.
The turn of events is become closer, very excited, going out there, still doing it. Start making some real money, get a little bit lazy, decide, I do got to get back on the doors. But by the time that laziness has gone off, they feel shook.
They lost the belief in themselves to go out there and set quality appointments.
How does somebody come back from that?
You have to hit it head on and take massive action. You have to go out there, and like I've had a conversation with Reagan. You know what I mean? As a new closer, I never have any doubt with any of my closers' ability. They're all very talented closers, but at the same time, in an office as big as mine, it's easy to lay back. You're going to make a couple thousand a week, but to make that switch into the crazy part is I could only imagine, like, from your perspective, or even Cotton's, right, from looking down on it, right, when you can really see that people are losing respect for this individual, because I can see it in my closers whenever I'll let one of my closers go run a meeting. I can read the room and see if my people are actually respecting what he's saying. Yeah. And whenever I see that, it's because that they are not producing. You're over here doing goal accountability, telling these people, why didn't you hit 4 sets? Why didn't you hit 5 sets? Why are none of your appointments running? And then they're not respecting it because you don't go out there and do it. Yeah. You don't go out there and lead. You're a boss. Yeah. And that's the main thing that I would say is a boss doesn't gain respect, a leader does. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, what do I say anytime I come into an office? I say the only person I really care about is the knocker, right? Yeah. I say because a closer, no matter what, you can fall out of a boat and hit water. That's how you make money in this business. I mean, it's going to happen. Yeah. But I've always cared most about the knocker because if they're doing well, then they'll progress. But if that group does well, literally everybody does.
That's right.
I mean, it's such a rush of – and so I don't know. I mean, we've had people who aren't market owner now, but they were market owner here in Utah. But he would say to me all the time, I hate this guy. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. And I always say, how could you hate somebody who works for you? Like, it makes – you could be like, guy's a dick. But I've never once thought to myself, I hate that person who works for me. Because they're paying my bills, right? Yeah. And so if I don't like them, whatever, but – I love that guy is trying to do what I've done. And maybe it comes from the sense that I'm older. I've got kids. I've got, it's easy for empathy to flow downward. But I feel this stewardship over the people who it's like anybody who moves on my name, right? Because if somebody moves to go be a market owner somewhere, they're doing it on my name and they're putting their trust in me.
Yeah.
And I got such a sense of stewardship that, okay, they put their trust in me. I got to make sure they get their best shot, right? And that's how I also feel like market owners and and closers should feel is like this person left their other job to come work here. That's a sacred trust that they placed in me to be able to take care of them and theirs, right? Mm-hmm. I think the big thing is that people, with respect, must come conflict, right? Yeah. You have to have conflict. And I think people avoid conflict like the plague sometimes. And what I've come to learn is I'd rather initiate conflict now, early, than have it just be this big festering thing. So I just say, hey, it seems like me and you got some beef. Let's talk about it. And they say, well, no beef. I was like, no, there's something. But if you tell me again that there's nothing, I'm going to believe you, then it's your fault that this thing's not going. But if me and you got beef, let's clear it up.
Yeah.
Because why walk around thinking I can't properly train this guy because I'm afraid that me and him don't like each other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. How do you guys approach conflict? Do you initiate conflict, or do you wait till it comes to you? Or are you guilty of both, or what?
It doesn't give much time to saturate, for sure. Like if there's conflict in any of the offices that I've noticed, like I'll bring it to light right then. Like talk to that person directly, because I've had a lot of instances where somebody is just, they're killing me, and then it turns into me arguing with them, but then I always want to hear their side of the story as well. But maybe I approach it a little bit differently. Sometimes I'll present with my anger, or like why this person's pissing me off so bad. But I do always give them the time to explain themselves in a sense of like why they're not producing or why they're not hitting their hours. But usually that's where I feel like a lot of conflict starts, is when I see them start losing in production, then they're checking out mentally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I always say no secrets. You know what I mean? Everybody just being open book.
We're all on the same team. I use Dakota as an example. If Dakota started pulling in the opposite direction of where I'm going, I'd cut him.
Yep.
It's not because we're not best friends, or it's not because I don't believe him. It's because we're spreading that idea of where we're going is successful, and everybody in this room, we're all going to the same place. And as long as you're going to the same place, we can make it happen. But if I've got people that are fighting me and going in the opposite direction, then I got to get rid of them.
Yeah, I've had it happen many times in the course of a company where they'd say, I disagree with you, or no, you shouldn't have done that, whatever. And I know that I'm correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm not infallible. I know I've got my faults and things, and I'm not saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But every single time that, a great example is Jamie in Jacksonville, mm-hmm. right, who's a great closer now.
Yep.
But she was being I've talked to her about this before, so I don't think she'll feel offended by me. But I remember she was being a turd. Mm-hmm. And when I first met her, she was sitting in the back, wasn't even paying attention. And Tristan had told me that she was having some attitude problems. So I said, okay, I'll handle it. And I took her into the office with Tristan. I said, hey, so it seems like you got some problems. And she said, yeah, I didn't like it. You said this and this and this. And I said, well, here's the thing. It's my company. So if you don't like that, this is not the company for you.
Yep.
And she said, well, hold on. Right? And I think when people realize that this is the wall that won't break, and this isn't going to be one of those things where, I'm not saying it's not a democracy, but it's definitely not a dictatorship, but it's certainly not a free state of Jones here. I mean, people got to abide by some law, and I think people crave that. I mean, they want
structure.
To know structure.
It's structure. You can build on structure. And, from Jamie now, seeing her in the Jacksonville office, she's invested. She's a leader. She's commenting. She's the most vocal person in the office, I would say.
Another good example is that girl down in Nashville.
Right? Yep. I went into her office. And
there was some real conflict in things. We addressed it very straightforward, and then she got on Big Check Friday.
Mm-hmm. And then on my last trip there, she was begging me to come knock, but it was because of...
And I think it's because of the now mutual respect that can be had, but the respect that, hey, listen, you either abide by these things or you don't. But if you don't, you cannot be here. Mm-hmm. It's too poisonous.
That's true.
How do you feel, especially like in your position, you're managing people that make $1 million plus, and even market owners, we're at 22 markets. What is something in common that you see from a broader view on respectable market owners and unrespectable market owners?
So respected and disrespected.
Respected and disrespected.
My position becomes tougher, right? And I was explaining this to Garrett the regional position becomes tougher because when you're a market owner, all your people, you're like a college coach, right? You can basically ruin this kid's life. You can either he needs to live by the rules or he's benched, he loses his scholarship, everything, right? When you become a regional or over a bunch of market owners, it becomes like an NFL coach where you got a lot of grown men who are also, most of them are making more money than you, and it's where now you got to talk to them in a way because they've earned their stripes still, but you still got to be able to. They got to, you guys still got to be able to bench a star player sometimes, so you can learn that. There's still rules. What I'll see out there, though, honestly, with respect and disrespect, is guys that hold the line. To be honest, market owners, I think, would be shocked by how little field work I actually had to do. It's because I knew that in my meetings, if somebody was off, I always knew exactly what was happening in my office. In fact, I had a culture of, like you said, no secrets, right? You ever watch that game show Survivor? Well, basically what it is 39 people get stuck on a desert island, and every night they vote somebody off, right? And so the whole point is alliances and betrayal and blah, blah, blah. Right? Yeah. And there's one guy who won it this one time. His name is Boston Rob. He made this rule that nobody was allowed to meet just two. There always had to be three people, right? It's part of the game. But basically it's hard for three people to turn at once, right? Yeah. And I had this culture not of being a tattletale, but this culture of, hey, if something pops up, that person's probably not going to get in trouble with me, but you need to let me know, right? You know who one of my biggest tattletales was? Zach. Yeah. Zach would tell me everything, right? And he's supposed to. Yeah. It wasn't being a tattletale. It was his understanding that in order for this company to grow, like you guys talk about a lot, but in order for me to run this office the best that I can, I have to know everything, right? And it's up to me to decide if that's an actionable offense or not. But I have to know everything. And if you don't tell me something, well, then you're complicit. You don't want to be complicit. You want this office to grow so you can grow.
We've had that talks with knockers. If a knocker is not, if they're skipping hood and you see it, you got to realize that that's hurting your business as well. It's not the whole office. They're hurting your business as a knocker.
Yeah, and I alone can decide as the market owner if that's an actionable offense. But if you don't tell me, that's a problem. So a lot of the market owners that are having trouble, they're afraid to hold line. They're afraid to – they don't have a culture of people – they have a culture of clickiness. All of my closers, equally. I was their boy. We'd go out. I cared about each of their success equally, right? And it doesn't mean that I didn't use this guy more than this guy to enforce law, whatever it is. You can still have different roles. But all of them knew that I cared about them equally, and I wanted them to do well, right? I cared about their success. So therefore, even when I'm ripping them, I want them to do well. But because I felt so secure that they knew I liked them, I was never worried about ripping a closer. I was never worried about ripping a knocker. Now, because the company's gotten so big, and I would talk to my closers and knockers every day as a market owner. Right. I don't talk to my market owners every day as a knocker, so it removes that relationship of feeling very secure, be like, hey, cut that out, and them know that it's because I care about them, which means it's the responsibility of the market owner to have that relationship with their knockers and closers, that they can rip them a new one and have that person be grateful for it.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of the market owners that have trouble with that don't have that relationship. They're buddies, but they're not a respected leader, and they don't do the thing. And that's where it's so hard to come back from. So then I will come to their office, and somebody who these knockers don't know will rip them to pieces, and the knockers will hate me.
Do you think it's more they're scared to lose people or they're scared to lose respect?
I don't think they're scared to lose respect. I think they're scared of conflict.
Oh, just in general?
People always say, like, oh, I don't want to drive this guy off. In fact, a market owner just recently was like, well, I didn't go after him because I really want to keep that guy. And I was like,
problem.
That's the opposite.
Yeah.
Right? If you really want to keep that guy, give him the best opportunity to make money. The best opportunity to make money is this, right? But I think people are afraid because they don't have that relationship with that person, right? I'm not afraid to crack you or Matt or Kaleo because I see all the time, right? and we can form a relationship that we feel good about it, right? But if you don't have a relationship with your people where they respect you and they know you want the best for them and they like you as well, then you're not going to be able to crack them. If you can't crack them, your office goes to the crabs, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They start running the office
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Well, what else you want to talk about?
I honestly, that hits a lot of points on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you guys have both done very well. Like, and honestly, that's what kind of threw me off with this one market owner, because I just knew, like, I'd always have people hanging out at my house, those things, and I know you guys do that as well. But the respect came first, and then the willingness to come do those other things, and then they like you, know that you like them, right?
Yeah.
I think people really need to understand that point is, like, have the relationship where you genuinely want their success. It's not an act.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you want their success, then you want them in your home, learning to be better. You want them around you. You want them, and they should want your life, you know?
Yeah, I always breed it. It's an investment. You know, getting Dakota out here was an investment. You know, from the small amount, which at the time it seemed like so big, like $10,000+ to get him out here. But monthly off of his office now, I'll clear like $20K a month.
Yep.
You know, but it's an investment. You know that I would have done anything to make sure that you stuck it out and got. I was
Yep.
buying you plane tickets every week to get you out here for a little bit of time, just until you saw that success. But
Yeah, well, like you said, it's just, and I think you nailed it. You have to genuinely want them to. You can't. It can't be an act. It can't be an act of you want somebody to do this. No, you have to genuinely want them to be successful.
I've had that talk with a lot of my people where I'll say, "You will quit on me before I quit on you."
Yep.
And by putting that out there, a lot of people have gained respect just from that one line, because they understand that if they call me at any time of the day, I'm here to answer it and give them advice.
And it has to come, like, people can smell it.
Yeah.
People can smell when you're not genuinely when you're doing your job rather than trying to help.
Yeah, if I were to tell a market owner, you need to tell your people this, and they just go and say the words, versus
It's a bad.
I say
it's
it
a
from
bad
my heart,
impression,
you know.
Yep.
I think that's a big point. I think that hits right on the head.
Cool deal. Well, great pod. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below. Thank you for all your support, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
And please, guys, go on the Shopify.
Buy some merch.
Hit the
Golly,
Shopify.
Stuff's not cheap.
That's right.